Hey, Heisenberg, what's up? And today I'm gonna do a review on the spin-off TV series of Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul. I'm having yogurt. After the insanity Breaking Bad had brought us, we really missed the show. Too bad it ended in season 5. So, Better Call Saul, created by Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould, both were producers on the original TV show Breaking Bad, centered on a lawyer who's very smart and witty, and who knows how to talk well, never stutters, in case you never watched Breaking Bad. Because, man, Saul Goodman is one of the best characters in TV history, up there with Jesse Pinkman, Walter White, and Gus Fring, and Mike Ehrmantraut, and yada yada, because Breaking Bad is a fucking good TV show. Well, anyway, the first episode is episode 1, Uno. It started off with a few monochrome shots about making cinnamon rolls and watching old TV ads. You may be confused, me too, when I was watching, but it was actually what happened after Breaking Bad took place. So there's that. But afterwards, it goes back to not the present day, but the past, where Better Call Saul all started. Yeah, it's very nostalgic. I feel like I was watching Breaking Bad again. The shots, the cinematography, the dialogue, it's all so familiar. And I'm just pointing out the first scene of the show is pretty damn good. Excuse me. And yes, in the original series, the show centered on Walter White with great character depth. Because this time, it's not Breaking Bad, it's Better Call Saul, it centers on James or Jimmy McGill, aka Saul Goodman. So now he also needs character depth, and the show gives us that. You know, in this show, it's more than the lawyer in Breaking Bad. In this show, his character gets deeper and we see the more personal side of him. And I really love it. And man, I'm glad we see a great acting performance from Bob Odenkirk too. Bob Odenkirk is great as Saul Goodman or Jimmy McGill, as always. And of course, the show begins its storytelling right off the bat. You know, usually TV shows start slow at the beginning in the pilot episode because it needs to, introduce you to the set, introduce the characters, build the tension. But this show, things happen right off the bat, and that's why it gets so interesting and entertaining right off the bat, and it's freaking amazing. And also, the ending is really entertaining, and it is also very playful and fun. It is like Breaking Bad, but way brighter and way more comedic. And at the end, the surprise is coming. Man, I didn't see that coming. Wow. The pilot episode is really promising, and as soon as I start watching the show, I already knew that it's gonna be nominated for the Emmys for Outstanding Drama Series. Moving on to episode 2, Miho. Another episode title that ends with O. Not much shows can bring up the entertainment bits right off the bat, but Better Call Saul proudly achieves that because, man, this episode is so intense and so fun. You know, usually TV shows, when they start off, they slow down and then it builds back up. But this show, it already gets so hyped at the beginning. Wow. I'm actually incredibly impressed. So, if you've watched last episode, you know what happened. So, now James McGill and those two poor, innocent guys were in deep trouble. And the first half was them being interrogated in such an illegal way until it ends with a desperate measure. And it's just so entertaining for the first half. And the second half is also very entertaining. And do you remember what's so good about Breaking Bad? That's right, montages. Vince Gilligan is a genius at montages, and this episode has a 5-minute long montage with great editing and musical choices. And I also love how a lot of the shots, the first shots from the scenes, focus on small things like red bell pepper, space blankets, a cup of coffee, parking stickers, which is also a signature Breaking Bad Vince Gilligan thing. So, man, episode 2 is one of the most entertaining episodes I've watched in a while. And we see a great return of a great character, and it's also incredibly entertaining and interesting to watch to see Jimmy McGill being himself in the most full and satisfying way and fulfilling way ever. Man, then it's episode 3, Nacho. You know, if this episode is titled Bingo, it would have been cooler, but hey, there's already an episode titled Bingo. I think it was episode 8. So this episode completely forgets about what happened last episode, and Jimmy faced more troubles, and everyone moved on. So now Nacho, which is, how should I put this? Nacho works for Tuco, and Tuco, you know who he is, come on. So Nacho's out to rip people off. So Jimmy, he wrapped a piece of paper around a paper roll, around a TP roll, and called the Kettlemans, which is a client he was about to receive. And Jimmy called them anonymously and told them they were in danger because the Kettlemans were about to be ripped off by Nacho. And that storyline builds a certain amount of suspense and tension, but also gives you the comedy and the fun. Honestly, that is a great plot and storyline idea for an episode. And in this episode, we get to see Jimmy McGill work his genius even more, which is really good and really interesting and really intriguing. And then we see Mike Ehrmantraut. He did even more in this episode. It's amazing. This episode is giving us all the things we are anticipating. Although it isn't as tense as last episode, it's still a freaking great episode. Better Call Saul is on a roll. Moving on to episode 4, Hero. Saul Goodman, or Jimmy McGill, became a hero. So basically the story is completely new. James McGill made his own billboard, but he was actually copying Hamlin McGill's billboard. So basically Jimmy McGill had a rivalry, and it's basically, what the fuck was that? So, someone just threw like a piece of paper into my room for some reason. Anyway, Jimmy McGill had a rivalry, had a quote-to-quote rivalry, which is Howard Hamlin, and so Jimmy McGill made a billboard, put up a billboard, and it's a billboard that's copying Hamlin McGill's billboard, which is a law firm that he's working in. And then Hamlin sued him, so now he had to take it down again. While a person was taking down the billboard, the person slipped and almost fell off a platform. And Jimmy McGill so happens to be nearby, and he decided to save him. And things are telling me that this might be staged. The show at this point is quite fast-paced, I have to say. The Kettlemans plotline already had completed in one episode, but they will return, of course, but it's already kind of completed. And then Jimmy McGill immediately starts something new again and get into more trouble. The progress is fast, I must say. And this pace is acceptable, and it's really keeping us in the edge of our chairs. And the story for this episode is really elaborate. I don't know who made the story up, but making a billboard, getting sued, and a man almost fall off while taking the billboard off, and then someone saving him. It's not a thing that you can just make up within seconds. So props to the writers for creating such a detailed and elaborate story. Then it's episode 5, Alpine Shepherd Boy, originally titled Jello, but unfortunately Kraft Foods didn't permit the title, so now it's one individual 3-word title with no O in the ending. So this episode wasn't that bad, although it's probably the most boring episode so far and the most lackluster and underwhelming episode. It received an 8.3 in IMDb, which is the lowest of the season. But the structure of the episode is quite interesting because the first half was Jimmy McGill going to shitty clients and talking to shitty people, and there's when the comedy comes out. And then it's all about Jimmy taking care of Chuck and considering elder law in the second half. And then the last bits, the very, very last bits towards the end were Mike in the new storyline. I like how Vince Gilligan and the writers make a supporting character say something random and the main character will believe it. Like the time when Jane told Jesse about Georgia O'Keeffe. Jane said his paintings were like vaginas and Jesse said the same thing to Walt. So, technically nothing groundbreaking happened, but it's entertaining when comedy and drama mixes, as always. On to episode 650. This episode, we really get to see Mike's backstory and something a little bit sadder and darker. So this episode, Jimmy isn't in it. No one's in it except Mike and everything that happened to him in the past. So, yeah, this is quite a special episode. In fact, this is the episode that got nominated for Outstanding Writing for a TV episode in a drama series in the Emmys. So, congratulations for that. And that's why when they played that Better Call Saul theme song at the end, I was like, why are you still using that music for the episode? Why don't you change to another title sequence music? Or end credits music. Sorry. Breaking Bad has all these different end credits music. I hope Better Call Saul has that too. But yes, so far it's the best Better Call Saul episode, and Jonathan Banks did a great job as Mike Ehrmantraut in this episode, because it digs really deep, really personal into Mike's past, and it involves some murder, it involves some vengeance, and overall it's a very moody and dark episode. Surprisingly moody episode from Better Call Saul. But it's great that the show gives us a break. Anyway, on to episode 7, Bingo, which also refers to the game Jimmy played with the elders and the song the Kettlemans sing in the tent, if you get the reference. So the Kettlemans have returned, big time, and then the Mike case is over? I'm not sure. There's yet to come for Mike's storyline. Although at the end Jimmy didn't work with Mike, he didn't work on that case, but I really get to see him work his genius and work with Mike once again, because in the timeline it never have happened, but, you know, in the way we watch it, yeah, it happened, and man, this is great, and yeah, this is awesome. It's like they sprayed a stack of money with some kind of weird substances and let the Kettlemans touch it. Then Mike had this neon light bar, and you can see traces of those substances, and by using that technique, Jimmy and Mike can somehow do things to the Kettlemans and expose them, and that is frickin' genius. So Jimmy continued with his adventures working on elder law on episode 8, Rico. This time he was writing a will for one of the residents in the Sandpiper's elders residence place, a facility for old people, and he realized that the residents' bills are overcharged, and he wanted to sue the Sandpipers. So here we go, a Rico. Just as Jimmy wanted to go back into the facility, the security stopped him, and the woman in charge just hated him. But Jimmy he went into the toilet and he wrote a letter suing the Sandpipers immediately with all the resources nearby. So another incredibly genius move from Jimmy. Really cheap and dumb move from Jimmy, but also very, very smart. So man, wow, I'm impressed. And Jimmy was really determined to sue the Sandpipers, which creates a lot of suspense and tension. And he did all kinds of crazy, impossible things that we don't even want to do. And man, he jumped into the trash. He even did that. And he put shredded paper back together with the help of Chuck overnight. So it's crazy. He was really determined to sue the Sandpiper Company. And this is yet another really good, really solid episode. It's entertaining, and we really get to see Jimmy being extremely smart. And it's satisfying, it's fun, it's impressive. Moving on to episode 9, Pimento. And it may sound like a stupid episode title, but it's actually quite a sad episode. First of all, we see Mike being really good at what he's doing, being badass, fighting people, and being a bodyguard for a man who's dealing drugs with the drug cartel, and the dealer, is incredibly dumb and stupid, and Mike was being extremely professional. But the real entertaining part is about Jimmy and Chuck. Jimmy got the case, the Sandpiper case last episode, and he was so passionate about it. He almost won the case. At least he sounded like winning the case. But then Chuck said that he and Jimmy can't win the case alone because it is not a two-man case. So Chuck gave the case to Hamlin. And finally, Better Call Saul dropped an F-bomb. Woohoo. And because there's something crazy going to happen, I have to give a spoiler alert. This episode is more well written and more well directed than most people thought. I like how Chuck gets Jimmy's phone at the middle of a midnight, but we don't know who he's calling, so it leaves a little bit of mystery. And after Hamlin turned Jimmy down, and we all suddenly hated Hamlin and supported Jimmy, Howard Hamlin spoke to Kim, and we didn't know what he said. And then Kim tried to make Jimmy give the case to Hamlin, so it's all so sudden. It didn't add up, and it doesn't make much sense. And we were all so confused and curious on what was actually happening. Until the last scene happened. Oh my gosh. The last scene is where everything is revealed, and everything makes sense. And it is basically Chuck called Howard to tell him that Jimmy is going to give the Sandpiper case to Hamlin McGill. Please stop texting me! Oh my gosh. Anyway, Chuck told Howard that Jimmy is going to give the case to Hamlin McGill, but Jimmy didn't know it. So a lot of things happened, and we realized that happened. So it's incredibly disappointing. It's a huge betrayal of Chuck, and wow. But this is a very well written and elaborate story. So props to Vince Gilligan and the rest of the writers, and I really hoped that this episode would nominate for outstanding writing. Then the story went on to episode 10, Marco, which is not the most grandiose ending ever, but somewhat underrated. So after the tragic story last episode, Jimmy went away and revisited his old pal Marco, so they continued to scam people and get money using very cheap and stupid ways. Until their last scam, something really bad and unexpected happened. So Jimmy went back to Albuquerque, and Kim told him about the David and Maine's deal. So it is a job offer for Jimmy. So yeah, if you don't know, something happened and Jimmy had to leave, so now Jimmy needs to go into a new law firm. with a really brilliant and well-written and a mind-boggling ending. B for Better Call Saul. I don't know why it says that on the script. I forgot why did I write that on the script. I wrote that like a year ago. Well, anyway, the ending is amazing. And in this episode, we also finally get to understand what was actually happening between Chuck and Howard and the real reason behind, the tragedy that took place on episode 9. So everything makes more sense, although it's still very sad and tragic. And man, the ending, just Jimmy McGill driving the car, humming Smoke on the Water, and driving away like a boss, like a savage. Wow. It took me a couple of days to digest the episode and understand the finale. So overall, Better Call Saul did not let us down. It is almost as good as Breaking Bad. Better Call Saul is a spin-off TV show of one of the best TV shows ever. So, man, Better Call Saul did a great job, and it did not disappoint. The storylines are elaborate. It is really, really well written, and the plot ideas, they're also really brilliant and ingenious. Props to Vince Gilligan, once again. The acting performances from Bob Odenkirk and Jonathan Banks are amazing. The editing, the montages, the cinematography, it all looked so familiar because of Breaking Bad, and I like them. And the style of the show really showed us the sleazy, dirty, the cheap side of America, which is something quite enjoyable. So at last, the worst episode is episode 5, Alpine Shepherd Boy, and the best is episode 9, Pimento. I'm saying Better Call Saul Season 1 is a show definitely worth watching, and I'm giving it a solid 9 out of 10. So, have you watched Better Call Saul Season 1? From 1 to 10, how much would you rate it? Like if you like it, and subscribe if you want more. And I'm going to finish up this yogurt.